That's awesome. Well, let me ask you a question. Like, how do you define leadership? Obviously, you were in a position as the skipper for all of the teams that you managed, but you have to lead from the front and certainly hear some of the lessons. But how, for someone who maybe doesn't know you or is maybe trying to struggle to find their own philosophy, what do you define leadership as?
I think you just said it. I mean, you have to walk the walk. You can't talk the talk. If you talk it, eventually people see it. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to walk the walk. And I can go to General Patton and him being out on the front lines with the pearl handle pistols. He
Yep.
inspired the entire army, and
Yes.
you've got to be out in front. And there's no job that you won't do. Um, and that's to me, you know what the right things are. You've grown up in this country, and you know what's right. Now go do right in front of everybody, and they will follow. And
Yep.
then be bold. I mean, don't be afraid. No fear. Um, you know, it's better to be a lion. It's better to be a lion and live one day than 1,000 sheep and live forever.
Guys, I am super excited for this episode of the Ripple Effect podcast because I have legendary baseball coach Ray Birmingham joining us. Coach Birmingham most recently retired from the University of New Mexico, my Lobos, and I am so thrilled he agreed to be on the podcast because this man knows how to win, he knows how to lead, and he knows how to inspire. And I'm so grateful that he agreed to be a part of the show. He retires as one of the coaches that achieved rare air, right? As they say, well over 1,000 victories. In fact, he finished his career with 1,216 victories, all at the collegiate level. But he's got fingers that touch the major leagues. He's got fingers that touch youth baseball. He's been able to make so many inroads in terms of creating positive ripples, not only for the players that have played for him, but the people that are inspired by what he does and how he does it. And I'm so grateful that he agreed to be a part of the show today. So with no further ado, let's get started. Oh, well, Coach Birmingham, thank you for joining the Ripple Effect podcast. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Every day's a great day. I'm a lucky man.
I love it. So I know that you retired from the University of New Mexico in 2021, all-time winningest baseball coach in New Mexico history. I mean, you are an elite company in so many ways. I'm so grateful that you agreed to be here because I just can't wait to dive into some of the stories and some of your experiences because I know you understand what it takes to win. I know you understand what it takes to lead, but you're a really inspirational individual. So I'm so grateful that you're here today.
Thank you for saying that. I've been lucky. I've been lucky, and as you well know in your business, um, you just go out and try to do as many positive things for other people as you can, and life will be good.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you. I normally start with an origin story, but I'm really curious about how you chose baseball. What was it about baseball and that as not only that intrigued you as an individual, but as a career path?
Well, everybody, we all love baseball from an early age,
Yep.
and I had an uncle who was a Hall of Fame coach in Missouri who inspired me, and my dad was got involved in Little League in Hobbs, New Mexico. And Hobbs wasn't a baseball town per se, but he would take me to the ballpark as a young kid, 6 years old, to see the Hobbs Pirates. Now, there was a minor league Class D league in southeastern New Mexico.
Wow.
That's another story, a long story in its own. Some cool people there. So I loved the shortstop on that team, and I'd hang around the dugout after the game, and he gave me his bat, and I still have his bat today. It says Hobbs Pirates on it. But that guy never used it very well. He was a back in the day. The shortstops were guys who played defense and hit 198. So his name was Gene Michael, and Gene Michael ended up being the manager of the Yankees and the president of the Yankees. So
Wow.
that gained significance as the years went on.
Oh, wow. So that inspired you to, move down that path to see, all the doors that baseball could open for you.
I just loved baseball. I really did. I loved it a lot. And you know, and my dad built the first. I saw him build the first little league. He's the one that inspired me because he built the first little league ballpark in Hobbs by getting donations. He put up lights. He put up a field and fence. It was all donated, and his time and other men that he got to help. And it was the first time the kids in Hobbs, New Mexico, had their own ballpark because we played behind junior high with 3 backstops out there and
Oh,
just nothing.
wow. That's fantastic. Well, I guess it sounds like your dad was a heck of a rippler as well.
He was. He was. He was a he was a servant in Knights of Columbus. And, Catholic Church was a big deal to him. And, yeah,
I
he
love
inspired.
that.
Mhm.
My dad grew up in Hobbs. Actually, early days. He was born in Hobbs. I think moved away when he was 4 or 5, and he's quite a bit older than you. But I was talking to him about the fact that I was getting an opportunity to interview you today, and he was just thrilled because he said, people don't realize how many good people come from Hobbs, Hobbs, New Mexico, right?
That's probably besides oil and gas. It's probably great people, man.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. Well, you spent the vast majority of your, I mean, all of your collegiate career in the great state of New Mexico. What inspired you to stay there and be a part of those 3 different programs?
Well, by the time there were several things, but I was committed to our state. I remember in high school crossing the state line and going into Texas, and Texas is pretty proud of Texas, and, and they should be, and they should be.
Yeah.
Um, and when we were the lesser than, let's wipe these boys up and take care of them and get them out of here.
Yep.
And, uh, and I wanted to get us with that attitude. I wanted New Mexico to get that attitude, and then I want to get them all. I wanted to go back and beat them all one time, and I lucked out and did that.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Yeah. Well, you're right about the sort of the I won't. I guess I could say the attitude, the difference. When I grew up being from Albuquerque, right? We didn't care for Texans all that much, and so when I moved here, it was a bit of a shift, because there is a lot of ego. I mean, they're proud of their state, right? But I being, a true New Mexican, I love to hear, someone like yourself talk about that because that's something that I feel passionate about that we need as New Mexicans to be able to drive that same level of spirit and remind people what a great state it is and just it's a magical place. It was a magical place to grow up.
I think we all feel the same way.
Yeah,
I do.
absolutely.
I think we all get that little chip on our shoulder, and you know, stand back, cowboy. Here I come. We can get you. And, I,
Yep.
and I've enjoyed doing that. Now, when I came to UNM, early in the years, we had jumped in the top 25 teams in the country, and I had some job offers, but I was farther along in my life and farther along in my career that it didn't make sense to me to not continue what I was already doing.
Yeah. Well, but you've also had, an opportunity in addition to what you were doing for the University of New Mexico, you had some opportunity to be part of USA Baseball and a number of, stints where you were, were you in an advisory capacity to some of the major league programs, or how did those opportunities come about?
No, I was, yeah, you're an advisory and a scout for them, eyes and opinion.
Yeah.
Most,
What brought those about? Was it because you were doing so well at the University of New Mexico, you were getting some more attention on you and your career, or?
I think some of that and some of that is that, when you grow up in Hobbs, you kind of have a Will Rogers approach to things, like you never met a stranger,
Yep.
and somebody you don't know, somebody you're about to know. And so I really, with my players, because I always coached them to make men, and pro ball players ended up coming out of it,
Yeah.
but and champions. So I think, I think that I wanted them to learn to network and be and be leaders amongst people.
I love that. So can you give us some idea kind of how you sort of coached your players in life in that regard? I'm really fascinated by that.
Well, first thing I did was I felt like we've spent so much time protecting you. You see kids today with high anxiety,
Yeah.
and it's gotten even worse.
Yep.
And I felt my coaching style was honed on adversity. Um, and there were a lot of coaches at my time. Ed Sheff at Lewis and Clark, and Lloyd Simmons at Seminole. They inspired me, and Gene Stevenson and Gary Ward, Oklahoma State, Gene Stevenson, Wichita State. Those guys all inspired me, and um, I, I felt like you had to put the kids through adversity, some pretty hard adversity, to make them tough enough to go through the hard times to get to the good times. And I think you just got to dive into that. So I went about doing that. And then the other thing is I wanted them to be part of the community where we were in Mexico Junior College or Mayfield High School or College of the Southwest or here.
Yep.
And I felt like if you can go see other people's plights, then you won't feel so darn sad for yourself when you just don't get to be in the starting lineup or things don't go your way because there's people a lot worse off than you, cowboy, and I need you to see it and I need you to participate in it and I need you to let go of yourself and help others and your life gets better.
Yep.
So all those things that I think developing young men into good men was really important to me.
I love that. Well, my son was involved in the athletics program, did all the social media when he was there a few years back before you retired. And one of the things that he told me, and this is my oldest son, Zach, he said that everybody on that campus respected you and loved you, you just for, the energy and the enthusiasm that you brought, not just to the game, but just around to the people that you were around, and you made everybody better. And that permeated. So you talk about a ripple effect, right? You talk about, the impact that you have. Where did that come from? Was that something that you learned along the way from your heroes? Was it something that came from your family, maybe your dad? Where do you think that impact that you are having on everybody at the University of New Mexico, where do you think that came from?
It came from my parents. One, they were very big in the community, and we were a family of 10, and we didn't have
Wow.
much, but we had a lot of effort to help others. Um, I remember reaching out and helping each other was a big deal for my mom. And so I remember taking, we didn't have much, but we always took Thanksgiving dinner to somebody who had nothing. All the kids piled in the car, mom cooked all day, and here we go. And she wanted us to feel that. So I remembered that. Um, I remembered Ralph Tasker influenced me a lot because he built a program, and so he taught me how to build a program. And I watched everything that he did. I didn't play basketball, but he influenced me. And I remember hustle, desire, and pride had to be the three but basis of that. There were a lot of gentlemen in the state of New Mexico that helped me, a lot of women that helped me just by their actions, and I learned a lot from them. Um, and and then Zig Ziglar. I was a big Zig Ziglar kid
Yep.
in my early 20s, like
Yep.
2021. I bought the tapes. I went Zig Ziglar,
Me
Stinking Pink.
too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I bought in. I was all in at the age of 21 and high energy, man. And always every day's a good day, and it's not about you, it's about us.
That's right.
Yeah. And
Oh,
that guy was very impactful on me.
yeah, he was. He was quite the character. I got to see him as he was starting to suffer with dementia, and I went to an event where he was speaking, and his wife, or excuse me, his daughter was there to help guide him through the conversation. But when he turned it on, it was like, it was just absolute magic. And he just had, much like with you, he had such a huge influence on my life because the things that he said, they were practical, but they were absolutely true. And they were things that I think that a lot of people don't put enough energy and effort towards, especially in how you make an impact on another person.
So yeah, so when he started that, I would always search for motivational stuff, and I was always a motivator, trying to figure ways to motivate you. I had to get to know you before I figured out how to know to motivate you.
Yep.
Would find those things that would motivate everybody to higher ground, man. You're capable of way more. Um,
Absolutely.
Andy Andrews, interesting. You should say this. Have you heard of Andy Andrews?
I have not. No.
You're doing the same thing that he did. That his was a story, and his personal story is unbelievable. But he has something that everybody should watch is the butterfly effect,
Okay.
just like the ripple effect.
Yep. Yep.
And that story with him on stage is inspiring.
I will look that up. We'll find a link and put it in the show notes. Thank you for sharing
It's
that.
probably 10 years old, maybe 15 or 20, but he's spot on, man.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, let me ask you a question. Like, how do you define leadership? Obviously, you were in a position as the skipper for all of the teams that you managed, but you have to lead from the front and certainly hear some of the lessons. But how, for someone who maybe doesn't know you or is maybe trying to struggle to find their own philosophy, what do you define leadership as?
I think you just said it. I mean, you have to walk the walk. You can't talk the talk. If you talk it, eventually people see it. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to walk the walk. And I can go to General Patton and him being out on the front lines with the pearl handle pistols. He
Yep.
inspired the entire army, and
Yes.
you've got to be out in front. And there's no job that you won't do. Um, and that's, to me, you know what the right things are. You've grown up in this country, and you know what's right. Now go do right in front of everybody, and they will follow. And
Yep.
then be bold. I mean, don't be afraid. No fear. Um, you know, it's better to be a lion. It's better to be a lion and live one day than 1,000 sheep and live forever. So, and you got to get out there and get after it, and not be afraid of failure.
Yep.
So I would schedule hard and fast all the time. I could have made a schedule to win 42 wins and 10 losses, but why? You're trying to win a championship.
Yep.
You're trying to go from little old New Mexico and win a national championship.
Yep.
And the
And
only way to
you
do it, and the only way to do it is to put coal under pressure. That's
yeah.
when you get a diamond. That's when you get a diamond. And that I still believe that today. And I think we're taking away the pressure part of it to making diamonds.
Yeah, I'm curious, how have you seen that? Because now, the uh, everybody kind of gets the opportunity to play. Everybody, especially youth players that are coming up. And I coached soccer for 28 years, so that I saw a dramatic shift in sort of kind of the attitude in terms of helping, from a parental perspective. These kids don't feel like they have to come prepared. They don't have to, deal with pressure. They don't know how to deal with pressure. Where do you see that affecting youth sports, baseball or otherwise?
And we have a crazy dynamic now for our culture in youth sports. And you and I grew up, and our dads coached our team. Some guy in town volunteered, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then the only coach that we really had that we thought was the best coach we had was our high school coaches. And then we moved on to college, and we had one more, and that was it. Now, from 8 until they get to Division 1, they might have had 8 coaches,
yeah,
8 different influences, 8 different ways to approach the game, 8 different ways to approach life, or whatever it is. And those 8 coaches got paid most of the time
yeah.
now. And now you're a customer, you're not a project.
That's right.
And that's the difference. And you know the approach on that. I do not need to lose this customer.
Right. Yep.
So here comes the smoke.
Yep. That's right. That's an excellent perspective on that for sure, and I agree 100%. Yeah, and it's kind of sad because, like you said, the way we grew up, aside from your parents, a coach was probably the most influential person you had in your life. They were somebody that they might be hard on you, and they might give you a lot of grief over what you did, how you performed, how you showed up ready to play or not. but they were the ones that really showed you exactly how life needed to be. And they utilized, just happened to be you were doing a sport at that time, right? But, at the end of the day, it was really more about life lessons.
Yeah. And it was about paying the price. And it's an honor to put this uniform on.
Yep.
I'm not, and I'm not kissing your behind. I'm not. You're here. We're together. And here's where the bar is. And we lower that puppy nowadays. Oh, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's not okay.
No.
It's not okay. And so those days are gone because I have a lot of friends across this country. And I've been very fortunate to have met so many wonderful men and women. Um, and they no longer are working either because they're the old school. They loved every kid,
Yep.
every kid. They gave
Yep.
them every bit they had, and but they were firm and they were demanding. That doesn't fly anymore.
No. It's unfortunate. But you're absolutely right. It's kind of, it's sad, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately.
It's I don't mean to be the old negative guy because I love kids. I still love them today, and I
Yep.
still want to motivate them. But we're leaving out the parts that were essential.
Yep. Absolutely.
Essential. So anyway, the kids are probably more informed than I ever was. But there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Yes. That's exactly true. Oh, yeah, that's such a great point. Let me ask you, in terms of your career path, there's got to be some highlights that you would, some stories maybe that you could share with us that that really stand out.
I've when in achievements, you're always goal oriented, and you're always I got a room full of trophies, and my wife says you can't eat those trophies, and I go, you're right, you're right.
Yes,
Uh,
you're right.
yeah. Um, but the thing that the thing that some of the things that I remember the most as a old redneck from Hobbs, New Mexico, was uh, Tony Gwynn asking me about hitting when we were
Wow.
leading and hitting, and to spend some time with me, and me getting to spend time with the great Tony Gwynn, the Tony Gwynn that um, had taught me, and but but him hearing his philosophy and some of the things he did from a student, and in my lifetime I've bumped into um, guys who were George Brett or Stan Musial or somebody of that stature, Greg Maddox, and just hear the game from how they approach and how they think about the game. That's out now. That's those guys. Case in point. So I'm coaching at Las Vegas Baseball Academy at Christmas, and
Okay.
there's Tony Glenn and there's Greg Maddox. Greg, how do you get Tony out? And he says, I don't. I really don't try to get Tony out. If I try to do something special to try to get him to strike out, he hits a double off the wall. He's standing on second, and then ends up scoring. So I let him single. He's a singles hitter. Singles not going to hurt me. I try to take a little off or put a little on because he's going to get a base hit in a 5.5 hole. That's what he's going to do. And so why would I try to do it? He hit 450 off of me in his career. So what am I doing? I let him single because I can get the big goon that hits behind him to chop into a double play and get them both.
Yep.
That's how baseball players think.
Yeah.
That's gone. It's a power game today.
Really. Yeah.
Power
That's
pitching,
yeah.
power.
That's gotta hurt a little bit in here, right? When you see it changing.
I, all those stories from all those guys, and hearing their stories and how they evolved interest me. I heard the great Ozzie Smith say that he learned the most about his fielding by playing by himself, playing wall ball.
Yep. I was at an event where I saw him speak, and he said the same thing. He said it was the greatest experience ever.
Mm-hmm.
He really learned about himself. He learned what he could do, but he realized there was nobody behind him. He had to catch it.
Yeah, yep. And it's simple. I mean, life has gotten so complicated, and I want to send a message to all the kids that this is simple. It's about proper repetition,
Yeah.
and and lots of work. 10,000 hours
Yeah.
from Malcolm Gladwell. Um, he's right. And so I've read all those things. I read a lot,
Yep.
study a
Uh,
lot.
I love that. Well, it's interesting. I'm curious, for your take, for someone who might be listening, that their son was, son or daughter, like, really enjoyed baseball and wanted to, to do well. There's this pressure for parents to put them into these accelerated, select leagues. What are your thoughts about that? I know they get higher quality coaching. I know that there's, obviously a little bit more financial investment for the parents. There's more intent on winning, but does that really bear out when you see it, like, from your perspective at the collegiate level? Does that make a difference in terms of when you look at the pedigree of a young youth player, what they did in, middle school going into high school? How did that influence you when you were looking at potential recruits?
You always went off after the best guy. I mean, who's kidding who? I
Yep.
mean, LSU just won the national championship and they bought 4 players
Yeah.
or more. I don't know. But Jay Johnson's a great coach and a good friend of mine, and did a great job, and I'm very happy for him. But um, to play the game because you love it. Because the guys that I knew that I know, and I know a lot of Hall of Famers, and I know a lot of All Stars, and the things that I can say about them is they had a passion for the game and a passion for excellence.
Yep.
Those two things. It was a passion, and they didn't ever say. I was around many of these kids, and they never said scholarship. They never said, "I'm doing it. I need to get a scholarship. I want to be really good, and I want my team to win." And they were high. They always felt like they needed to help the other guy on their team too. They weren't selfish about it because they wanted to win.
Yep.
And so they would get themselves right, and they would get teammates right, mentally and physically. And those guys, winners. This game's so hard. True in golf, true in anything.
Yep.
You watch those elite, and they're about raising all boats.
Oh, I love that. And I sort of preach the same thing. I coached youth soccer for a long time and always had parents going, "When are we going to the next level? We should be competing at, at the highest level." And the reality was there were players that I had on my squad that just weren't at that caliber, but as a team, we were rock solid. And the thing that I always preached to the parents was, I know that, you want to keep up with the Joneses and what, your friends are doing with their kids, but it's about the love of the game. It's about walking around, not only, proud of what you're doing and accomplishing, but this is a game that they can take into their life. I'm 52. I still play soccer. I love the game. But at the end of the day, a lot of times I see with the pressures that parents have today with this select mindset, got to keep pushing and keep pushing. They burn these kids out. And, I coached a girls team in the Pflugerville area when I first moved to the Austin area. And I had parents that, wanted to take their kids and wanted us to move up to the highest level we could. And I said, I'm not going to, because at that time it wasn't a good decision for us. And I said, you're going to burn these kids out. They're not even going to love soccer any longer. And 3 amazing kids didn't even play in high school because their parents just push, push, push. And so I see that being a major challenge across all sports, not just soccer, not just baseball, but there's this win at all cost mentality. But what they're really driving is that mindset that one player is more important than everybody else. So what I liked about what you said is, hey, I've got skills and abilities, but it's going to be adaptable. I'm going to figure out what I can do to support my teammates and figure out how to win together.
Absolutely. And that culture, it's a systemic problem because it's not in the system to do that with select ball.
Right.
It's about we need to win. I'm paying you, and we need to get more better players. Kick Billy off, kick Joey off,
Yep.
kick those kids off, and give me better players. And I call it the bragging and Applebee syndrome.
I love
They
that.
all Applebee's after the game and brag,
Yeah.
and not healthy, not
No,
healthy one bit. And
no.
kids don't learn to have great relationships that last a lifetime,
Yeah.
and or your culture's not going to have them either. Sports is really important in the American culture, but the right kind of sports culture is really important in making our communities better. If you had a league like we used to have, a developmental league, where you paid some guys who are really good at what they do to be there with all kids from the South Valley in Albuquerque
Yeah.
to the North Heights, and we mixed together and we had training camp every morning. Parents could drop them off. Today's ground balls, today's defense, whatever. Tomorrow's offense, whatever. Pitching, whatever. And they got together, and then they got in the league, and you divided the competition up. You didn't overload one team and smoke all the bad teams, which is
Yep.
fake,
Yep.
which is official.
Yep.
And you got them all together and did that. Now you're building a culture. And what if you had hot dogs with everybody after the game, and there was anybody that got a little too fired up, you had to go to timeout,
Yeah.
parents included. Parents included.
I love
And
that.
and let's use sports to build a good culture. It's
Yeah.
out of control, man.
It is out of control, and there's so much that can be learned from it too. And like you said, as a player, where I fit in a system, how I make my teammates better, how they can count on me when the chips are down, where I can pick someone up that's maybe fallen short, but pick them up, dust them off, get them back in the game. And when you can do that with your fellow teammate, that's like we're talking life lessons here that will play so many ways out into your life. And that starts with sports, right? Your ability to learn those things. And if you have a good coach that sees something in you and inspires you to be the best you can be, it's probably one of the greatest feelings you can ever experience as a human being.
Absolutely. Um, the some of the most talented teams I've had and seen other people have didn't win at all.
Yep.
What I did see is there's an old saying. It's really simple. It's old school. There's no I in team.
Yep.
And and when you have a team, you got a shot, because you're not going to win it because of your superstar. He's going to
Yep.
help, but you're going to win it because this kid back here has been out of the limelight the whole season, and he does something clutch to help you win it. Case in point, I don't remember what year it was. Oklahoma University won their national championship in baseball,
Yep.
and a kid, Chip Glass from Colorado, who I've been in touch with because I made a point to meet him. He came off the bench. He'd been on the bench all year. He came off the bench. OU wins the national championship, and he's MVP. That happens a lot,
Yep.
and people need to know that the guy, everybody is important. Everybody.
Ah, I love that. I love that so much.
That's the culture this country needs to have too.
Yes, I
Everybody.
agree. We're so far away from it now, but maybe it takes having this conversation right now, like this, where we can get it back on the table.
Now you get me fired up. But think about it. The greatest generation in the history of the United States may have been the World War II generation, correct?
Yep.
Everybody was important. And the reason the soldiers were fighting here and there, and the women were building the airplanes and the tanks. And everybody was involved.
Yep.
That's when we were our strongest.
That's
And we came
true.
out of that and had probably the greatest decade in the history of the United States immediately following, because we had a team.
Yep. Yep. You're absolutely right, without question. Let me ask you. So now that you've retired, how are you spending your time?
Um, well, I go see my grandkids as often as I possibly can, and I will do that repeatedly.
That's in
Uh,
Houston, right?
Dallas.
Dallas. Dallas. Okay.
I have I have great children, unbelievable kids, and they've done a great job as adults now. And and then I'm involved in children's cancer, which is huge for me. And we just had a big gala, and that Children's Cancer Fund of New Mexico, whoo, inspiring,
Yeah.
inspiring. We just raised over $500,000 to help families who go through that.
Oh, that's great.
And then I'm helping ALS, and I'm helping Lobo Athletics a little bit too, part time.
So you stay busy.
I do, and I'm trying. I never played a lot of golf, and so I picked it up. And man, did I stink! But I was going to go back.
Well, yeah, that's why you practice, right? Got to keep
Oh man,
playing.
I practiced. I hate losing.
Oh, well, I wonder where that came from. All right. Well, so let me ask you a couple of Ripple specific questions, if you don't mind. What is what did you learn from failure?
Failure is important, real important. So I'll give an example. I'll give you a really good example. So I come to the University of Mexico, and now I'm an older dog and a veteran, and I'm pretty calm about it. I'm not nervous. I got to keep this job. I don't care.
Yeah.
I had a better job. I turned down a better job to take this job. So I'm really not nervous about it. I'm trying to evaluate it, see what we do. So we get going, and TCU's the big dog in the league, and they're big dog.
Yep.
And Coach Schlossnagel's doing a great job. He's a great coach, and we got to catch them. Um, when I was in high school, I was trying to catch Sandia High School, by the
Yeah.
way. Past,
Yep. Man, yep.
yeah. So I always pick the big dog, and I got to go. I got to catch him. So we finished second to him in 8 and 9, and in 2010 we finished second to him again in the regular season, but we get into the regionals because we've played such a hard schedule.
Yeah.
First time UNM had been in a regional since '62.
Oh,
So I go, okay, here we go. So the next year, I make a schedule that's number 2 in the country, toughest schedule in the country. It might have been number 1for a little while. And I mean, these poor kids, I got a freshman team. I
uh-huh.
got all people. They're all puppies. And there's some sophomores, maybe one senior, one junior. And I know we're about to get our butts handed to us repeatedly on the road in Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, Arizona, Arizona State. I mean, we open with them. We're playing the top 15 teams in the country. So I just got to keep us afloat. I just got to keep. We're like 11-30. We're not very good. We keep getting a little bit better, a little bit better. We get to the tournament and we win it. We win
I
it.
love it.
And we win it. And those kids were amazing. So we win it, but then they get it, and they roll off 3 more conference championships after that from a program that had never hadn't done it in a long, long time.
Yeah.
And go to regionals and do all those things. And I do believe that the old saying that if it doesn't kill you, it makes you tougher, makes you better. That's true. It's true.
Uh,
You have to take on that failure and learn to fight your way through it. Take on the hard stuff because failure's good for you if you don't lay down and stay down.
yep. Oh, that's fantastic. That's words of wisdom right there for sure. Thank you for that.
Yeah, as long as you get up, baby, you're okay.
I love it. So, what's the best thing a former player could say about Ray Birmingham?
Thanks, coach.
I love that. Yeah. Those words mean a lot, don't they? I mean, when you have a former player come back, just to call you coach is an honor of a lifetime anyway. But when they can come back and say, thank you for what you taught me. They may not have appreciated it at the time, but now they've gotten some distance and perspective, and now they really understand it.
I never appreciated it at the time.
No, no, they all figure it out. I did. I've long since figured that out myself. That you may not know it in the moment, but you will eventually, and that's the best. That's the payoff, right? That's the payoff of
Mm-hmm.
being a coach for
It's
sure.
big. With the words, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Where do you find your inspiration today? It sounds you read a lot. Sounds like, and you pay attention to a lot of the motivational messages that are out there. But what really inspires you today?
Right now, I will tell you one because people inspire me. I love people. I love to understand them. They're books. Everybody's a book. You're a book. I
Yep,
would love to sit in a room and just, Steve, tell me about you, man. Um, there's a guy named Ballard right now. I think his name is Tim Ballard.
Tim
Uh,
Ballard.
Google that real quick.
Okay.
Tim Ballard, Sounds of Freedom. And for this man to do what he did to protect children from
Oh
trafficking,
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not. You know, Aaron Judge was in our league, and I've spoken. Pat Mahomes. We played against him when he was. I remember standing on the fence and him talking about quitting baseball and going to quarterback. I said it's a great idea, and it turned out right for him. But those are cool things, and that's awesome for you, kid. But the people go do things like Mr. Ballard did,
Yeah.
unselfish dedication to your fellow man, huge, huge.
Yep. Absolutely.
Those are things that inspire me today.
Well, yeah, I have not seen the film yet, but I'm looking forward to it. A good friend of mine here in Austin actually was sort of responsible for helping them get some PR for when they were just finishing production and to get some early
High five
press
for me.
about it. What's
High
that?
five,
Oh,
high five that guy for me.
I will. I will. Yeah, it's inspiring for sure. Let me ask you, what's the best piece of advice that you've received and how have you used it?
Woo. Well, I'll give you two of them that I learned as a young teacher. So when I started coaching high school, and there was a guy next to me. I was nervous because I'm teaching English, baseball, and football coaching, but that's a piece of cake. Um, Teaching English for a guy who was fairly illiterate, um, I was scared to death. So he was an old math teacher. He said, "Son, remember, don't be afraid of it because a one-eyed man is king of the land of the blind." Okay, I got you. Yeah, you're right. They don't know
Yeah.
as much as I do, and I don't know much, so I got you. He said, um, a teacher on his feet's worth two in a seat, which is true with any job.
Yeah, that's very true.
They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So
Yeah.
those things have stuck with me my whole life.
Those are all, I mean, those are gems. I mean, those are just, seriously valuable and, apply on, like you said, in almost every aspect of any career anywhere.
Anything
Uh,
you do,
I love that. What was the best thing in your mind about being a coach?
watching young people grow, and they may not turn out to be the greatest football player, baseball player, basketball player, but they turned out to be the greatest human being in their community. And I find that way more rewarding. I go, wow. And I will check on Facebook has allowed me. I'm big on Facebook because it allows me to see my friends and family and people that I care about,
Yeah.
and to watch them grow. And now some of them have fallen down, and I've called them, "Hey, dude, come on,
Yeah.
1978. I coached you in '78, and I'm calling you. You're 50 something years old,
Yeah.
and what's going on? What do we need to do? Come on, let's go." Um, just to watch them grow into good people, man. That's what I'm an educator.
Yeah.
That's what I am. I'm an educator,
Yeah.
and in my last couple of years, I'm stopping practice before we start practice to show them how to jump off a car, where the spare's located, how to change a tire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These these are life skills that we're skipping that these kids don't know.
That's right. Yeah. They don't know. You're absolutely right.
We went through COVID here in the state of New Mexico. It was umpteen times tougher than
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
And, there was, you had to protect the kids somehow because there were discussions amongst players, that so and so might commit suicide or something of those natures. So the game doesn't matter. I
No.
don't. I just need these kids to survive. We're just going to get through it. We're just going to survive. And they were isolated in their apartments, and they could just get on a plane and go to no practice, go to a game.
Hmm.
And so you just had to keep uplifting during a tough time. And that's what we do. We used to do, and I hope we continue to do. Children's Cancer Fund does is lift your neighbors up and lift each other up during the tough times.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great advice without question. Well, my last two questions. What does the ripple effect mean to you?
The ripple effect is huge. Everything that you do ripples in some direction, negatively or positively. and you don't know it because you don't see where it goes.
Yeah.
I call it the butterfly effect, but it's the
Yeah.
same. And if you'll watch Andy Andrews, you will see. I think I encourage everybody to watch
Yep.
Andy Andrews. That everything that you do is important, and everything that comes out of your mouth needs to have a positive purpose. You got to watch your mouth. That's why God gave you 2 ears and one mouth,
Yep.
and you have to be cognizant of that. Um, so that's what the ripple effect means to me. To me, when you said yours is called the ripple effect, I go, I'm all in, man. This is exactly how I believe. This is really
Thank you.
real
Well,
close.
I'm gonna send you a copy of my book because I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this. You just agreeing to do it created a huge ripple in my life. My son thinks I'm a rock star now because I was able to book you on the show. So,
You
thank
are
you
a
for that.
rock star, Stevie. You are a rock star. There's no doubt. I feel your energy right here, and I'm 1,000 miles away.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, my last question is, what ripple can I be creating for you?
For me, just get rid of unselfishness. Be unselfish. Get rid of selfishness. Be unselfish. See the whole picture. See that all of us are in this, not just you, and
Yep.
make it about us and not me. That's the message that I hope. And you look like you're that guy anyway, so I'm sure you are. And I got to tell you, man, I wanted to beat the Matadors so bad when I was a young coach. I had motivational Matadors think they're the greatest. We're going to beat them. I had those posters everywhere.
We did have a little bit of swagger back then for sure.
You
So
guys did have some swagger. Do you remember Scott Hoover? What year did you graduate?
89.
Oh, he was before you.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little guy on the Matador team, and we ended up beating him and catching him and passing him. But golly, Scott Hoover was his name, and they played in that. You had a fantastic little league going on in that
Yeah.
town.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You had a fantastic everything going on at San Diego High School,
Yep.
the summer leagues and all that. And Hoover, we could never get Hoover out. And then him and I became one of my biggest boosters here at UNM. When I met him, I go, man, I hated you. I said, well, he's going to get a base hit. Let's just throw at him. Let's just give him.
Oh, that did he go on to play beyond college or
He did. He went on to
okay.
play college. He didn't play pro. He was smallish guy. He's probably the best golfer in town. In fact, he is. He won the championship. But he got into private business and excelled at it. And him and his dad were big in the community and just great people.
Well, see, you're the guy I need to know in New Mexico. Apparently, you've got all these connections and all these ties. I mean, from Hobbs to Albuquerque to the pros. I mean, you definitely have. I mean, you get the ripple concept because you're rippling with all these people.
Will Rogers, baby.
Yeah,
I think kids need to learn to, meet as I tell my sons, meet 5 new people a week.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's such great advice. That's and so important and it's life changing. Those 5 people, you never know who you're going to cross paths with. The problem is most of us today, especially, they have these phones and that's our distraction, and I tell my audiences when I get an opportunity to speak is that the right people show up in your life at exactly the time that they're supposed to, but you have to be looking up and looking out in order to understand it and to appreciate it. So
Hey, you're so right.
I am so grateful that our paths have crossed. This is not going to be a one-time thing. I'm coming to Albuquerque next month, so I'm going to buy you lunch. So
I can't wait, man.
so you
Can't
pick
wait.
your favorite restaurant. Let's go. But
Yeah, where you're at, I'm good to go.
I'm so grateful for your time today. Is there anywhere that you would want folks that hear this podcast or see the video to follow you on social media? I know you mentioned Facebook, but you may not want everybody, sending you friend requests. Do you have any social channels that are important to you for them to follow?
I'm on because I'm doing promotions for the university and for children's cancer and for Tommy Cress Insurance. Um, I have Twitter,
Okay.
Birmingham Ray, and Facebook, and I have I think you call it Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, yep, I have that too. So yeah, I I stay connected as best I can in this community, in this state, and it's very important. I'm a regent at the Eastern New Mexico University now,
Yep.
and really excited about getting that thing going again because that has potential. It's boring, but it's safe, and you have a professor in a classroom. How about that?
Yeah,
And you go,
absolutely.
you're not going to fail because they know who you are and they know where you are, and we're going to get you back over here.
That's great.
We're not failing. Nobody's falling down. We're picking you back up.
I love that. Well, New Mexico needs that. They need people like you, and they need that leadership to continue. And so, thank you for being such an inspiration and such a good steward of that responsibility. You've created ripples, not just through your coaching career with the young men that you've had the pleasure to coach, but virtually everybody that you've probably come in contact with. And so, I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed, and I can't wait to have our next conversation.
God says you're supposed to, man. So we do it.
Absolutely. Well, Coach Birmingham, thank you so much. Guys, we'll be back again with another episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. But until then, ripple on.
God bless you, Steve.